wasn't new to babysitting. At 18, she'd been looking after kids for years to save up for college. Parents loved her because she was responsible, and kids adored her for her fun and creative personality. But one Friday evening, she accepted a job that would forever change her perspective on babysitting. The job seemed simple: watching over 6-year-old Mia while her parents attended a dinner party. Anna had babysat Mia twice before, and the girl was easygoing. She loved coloring and playing with her collection of dolls. But this time, something about the job felt different. Anna arrived at the house at 6:30 p.m., just as the sun was setting. Mia's parents gave their usual instructions: bedtime at 8 o'clock, snacks in the fridge, and emergency contacts on the counter. But before leaving, Mia's mom hesitated at the front door. "Oh, one last thing," she said, her tone oddly serious. "Mia has a porcelain doll named Lily. She likes to say goodnight to it before bed. Just humor her, okay?" Anna nodded with a polite smile, but the request unsettled her. She wasn't a fan of dolls. They always felt a bit too lifelike for her comfort. The first hour was uneventful. Anna helped Mia with a coloring book, then let her play with her dolls while they watched a cartoon. Mia seemed content and talkative as usual, but when the clock struck 7:50, her demeanor suddenly changed. "Mia, time to get ready for bed," Anna said cheerfully. Mia looked up from her dolls and whispered, "We have to say goodnight to Lily first." Anna felt a chill run down her spine but shrugged it off as her imagination. "Okay," she said, following Mia upstairs to her room. The bedroom was typical for a little girl. Bright pink walls, a small bed covered in stuffed animals, and shelves lined with toys. But what stood out was the porcelain doll sitting on the highest shelf. It was about a foot tall, dressed in a faded white dress with lace trim. Its face was pale and cracked in places, and its glassy blue eyes seemed to follow Anna as she moved. "Good night, Lily," Mia said sweetly, waving at the doll. "Good night, Lily," Anna repeated, feeling ridiculous. Mia climbed into bed and fell asleep almost instantly. Anna turned off the light and quietly shut the door, relieved that her part in the bizarre ritual was over. Downstairs, Anna settled onto the couch and turned on a movie. The house was eerily quiet, but she chalked it up to being alone. After about 20 minutes, she heard a faint sound, a giggle. Anna paused the movie and listened, her heart pounding. It sounded like Mia, but it was strange, distant, almost like it was coming from the hallway. She got up and walked toward the stairs. "Mia, are you okay?" she called softly. There was no answer. Anna peeked into Mia's room to find her sound asleep. The doll was still on the shelf, sitting in the same position. Shrugging it off, Anna returned to the couch, convincing herself she'd imagined the sound. But just as she hit play, her stomach twisted with unease as she slowly climbed the stairs. This time, the noise seemed to come from Mia's room. Anna opened the door cautiously, scanning the room for anything unusual. That's when she saw it. The doll was no longer on the shelf. It was sitting upright on the floor, directly facing the door. Anna froze. 1,000 explanations ran through her mind, each more ridiculous than the last. Maybe Mia had gotten up and moved it in her sleep? Maybe it had fallen? "Mia," Anna whispered, her voice shaky. The little girl stirred but didn't wake up. Anna picked up the doll, its cold porcelain face sending a shiver down her spine, and placed it back on the shelf. She double-checked that it was securely positioned before returning downstairs. About an hour passed without incident, and Anna started to relax. But just as she began scrolling through her phone, she heard it, a faint whisper. Anna, her blood ran cold. She looked around the room, her eyes wide with fear. The whisper had been so soft, so faint, that she almost convinced herself she was hearing things. But then it happened again. "Anna, come play." The voice was childlike, but it didn't sound like Mia. It seemed to echo from the walls, impossible to pinpoint. Heart racing, Anna tiptoed back upstairs. She peeked into Mia's room. The girl was still fast asleep, completely undisturbed. But the doll was once again on the floor, this time lying on its side. Anna's hands trembled as she picked it up. She wanted to throw it out the window, but instead, she placed it back on the shelf and whispered to herself, "It's just a toy. Can't hurt me." Unable to shake her growing fear, Anna decided to call Mia's mom. She tried to sound calm as she explained what was happening. "I don't want to sound crazy," Anna said, "but the doll keeps moving, and I swear I'm hearing whispers." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, Mia's mom spoke, her voice low and hesitant. "You're not crazy," she said. "You're the third babysitter to say that." Anna's heart dropped. "The doll belonged to my grandmother," Mia's mom continued. "She loved it so much she used to call it her little companion. After she passed away, strange things started happening. But it's just a coincidence, right?" Anna didn't respond. Her gaze was fixed on the staircase. As she hung up the phone, Anna heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Her blood turned to ice. She grabbed a kitchen knife and crept up the stairs, her pulse pounding in her ears. She pushed open Mia's bedroom door to find the little girl still asleep. But the doll? It was sitting on the bed, facing Mia, with its tiny porcelain hand resting on the girl's arm. Anna didn't think. She grabbed the doll and sprinted downstairs, throwing it into the kitchen trash. Then, she locked the door to Mia's room and sat by the front door, waiting for her parents to come home. When they finally arrived, she didn't say a word about what had happened. But as she drove home, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. Later that night, she found a single piece of porcelain on the floor of her bedroom. A tiny hand, cracked and broken. "Some things should never be taken lightly," Anna would later say. "That doll wasn't just a toy. It was something else. Something I never want to see again." Would you have stayed in that house? Or would you have left the moment the doll started moving? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe to Fear Nest for more terrifying tales. Being a babysitter had always been easy money for Samantha. At 20, she was no stranger to spending quiet nights watching TV while kids slept in their rooms. It was simple, uneventful, and predictable, just the way she liked it. But when she agreed to babysit for the Carver family, she had no idea that the night would turn into one she would never forget. The Carvers lived in an upscale neighborhood on the edge of town, surrounded by dense woods. Their house was massive, 2 stories tall with large windows that looked out into the dark forest. Samantha was excited at first, thinking it would be another quiet night to catch up on her favorite show. But as the evening unfolded, the stillness of the house and its shadowy surroundings began to gnaw at her nerves. The night started normally. Samantha had arrived at 7 p.m., greeted by the Carvers' energetic 7-year-old son, Max. His parents gave her the rundown. Max was already fed, his bedtime was at 8:30, and he was allowed 1 story before bed. "If you need anything, just give us a call," Mr. Carver said with a warm smile before they left. By 8:45, Max was asleep, and Samantha settled on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, flipping through channels. The house was quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the wooden floors. Then, at 9:15, the phone rang. The sound startled Samantha. It was a landline phone, a rarity these days. She hesitated before picking it up. "Hello?" There was silence on the other end. Then, a faint, raspy voice whispered, "Have you checked on Max?" Samantha froze. Her throat tightened, and her heart began to race. "Who is this?" she demanded, but the line went dead. She immediately grabbed her cell phone and called Mr. Carver. He picked up after a few rings, and she quickly explained what had happened. "That's strange," he said, his voice calm but concerned. "We haven't called. Are you sure it wasn't a prank?" Samantha nodded to herself, trying to calm down. "Maybe. I'll go check on Max just to be safe." "Good idea," Mr. Carver replied. "Keep us updated." Samantha crept upstairs, her footsteps barely making a sound on the plush carpet. Max's room was at the end of the hall, and the door was slightly ajar. Pushing it open gently, she peeked inside. Max was sound asleep, his chest rising and falling with each breath. The room was exactly as she had left it. His toys neatly arranged, the nightlight casting a soft glow, and the window securely closed. Relieved, Samantha backed out of the room and closed the door quietly. She felt silly for overreacting. It was probably just some bored teenager playing a prank. But as she walked back downstairs, she noticed something that made her stop dead in her tracks. The front door was unlocked. She distinctly remembered locking it after the Carvers had left. Her pulse quickened as she moved cautiously toward the door, her eyes scanning the shadows around the house. She locked it again, double-checking to ensure it was secure, and then quickly returned to the living room. Just as Samantha sat down, the phone rang again. Her heart jumped, and for a moment, she considered ignoring it. But curiosity and duty got the better of her. "Hello," she said, her voice trembling. The same raspy voice replied, "You shouldn't have locked the door." Samantha's breath caught in her throat. She slammed the phone down, her hands shaking. This was no prank. Someone was watching her. She grabbed her cell phone and called the police, explaining the situation as calmly as she could. The dispatcher assured her that an officer would be sent to check on the house, but it would take about 20 minutes for them to arrive. Samantha locked all the doors and windows, making sure everything was secure. She even turned off the lights in the living room to make it harder for anyone outside to see in. The house felt suffocatingly quiet. Samantha sat on the couch, her ears straining to catch any sound. Every creak of the floorboards and rustle of the wind outside made her jump. Then she heard it. Footsteps. They were faint but deliberate, coming from upstairs. Her stomach churned with fear. Max was up there, grabbing a flashlight from the kitchen. Samantha tiptoed up the stairs, her hands trembling. As she reached the top, she saw a shadow move across the hallway, too large to be Max. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice cracking. There was no response. She approached Max's room, her heart pounding in her chest. Slowly, she pushed the door open. Max was still asleep, undisturbed. Samantha scanned the room with her flashlight, but nothing seemed out of place. Just as she turned to leave, she noticed something that sent shivers down her spine. The closet door, which had been closed earlier, was now slightly open. Samantha stood frozen, staring at the closet. Every instinct screamed at her to grab Max and run, but she couldn't move. Summoning every ounce of courage, She stepped closer and yanked the closet door open. The flashlight beam revealed nothing but hanging clothes and a few scattered toys. She let out a shaky breath, laughing nervously at herself. But as she turned around, she caught a glimpse of something in the mirror on the wall. A figure stood in the hallway, a tall man, his face obscured by shadows. Samantha screamed and slammed the bedroom door shut, locking it. She grabbed Max, who woke up crying, and held him tightly. "It's okay, Max," she whispered, her voice shaking. "We're going to be okay." Minutes felt like hours as Samantha sat huddled in the corner of Max's room, her eyes fixed on the door. She heard heavy footsteps outside, pacing back and forth, and the faint sound of the doorknob rattling. Finally, the sound of a police siren broke the tension. The footsteps stopped, and the house fell silent. Moments later, there was a knock at the front door, followed by a voice announcing, "Police!" Samantha opened the bedroom door cautiously and made her way downstairs, still holding Max. Two officers stood in the entryway, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. She explained everything, her words tumbling out in a rush. The officers searched the house but found no sign of the man. However, one of the officers noticed something chilling: a muddy footprint just inside the front door. The Carvers returned home shortly after, shocked and apologetic. They couldn't believe what had happened. Samantha tried to brush it off, but deep down, she knew she would never take another babysitting job again. As she drove home that night, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "See you soon." Samantha threw her phone onto the passenger seat, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. She didn't look back as she sped away, vowing never to step foot in that house, or any house near the woods, again.